Hey, this is Terry Bean coming at you. We got a fun episode of Business Growth Time. We're going to look at life from a different angle. What if entrepreneurship goes sideways and it's time to jump back into the workforce? Rob Deptford is going to be here and talk a little bit about that. But before I properly introduce him, I got to have a little conversation with my old pal. You know, we're high school buddies. You knew that, right? She's a social media queen. Facebook advertising and Instagram advertising are her kingdom. And she is here to help you do her thing or your thing. It's Janet E. Johnson, where today, Janet, the E stands for entitled.
Oh boy, I'm not sure I like that one, but okay. Who's entitled?
Evidently, I am. My ex-sister-in-law once said that I was very entitled.
Oh yeah.
Did you?
Yeah.
You're like, oh yeah.
I'm saying you. I'm saying I believe there are people in this world that believe they are entitled to.
It is it.
That's interesting. But I also noticed that your name, once again, if anybody watched the last show, he messed around with his name again on Zoom. Mm-hmm. So here we are. He's now messing with so if you heard our last show, the reason we share the Zoom account. So he always comes in here and he's Janet E. Johnson. So now he's just messing with the names. No, if you're watching, it's more fun.
I went with Terry R. Bean for like 4 episodes. No one said a damn thing. I'm like, you know what? Fine. Forget it. We're good. All right. So let me introduce us to Rob, because Rob and I met on LinkedIn. Rob's one of those content creators. And if you are watching, you can see almost like he's in studio, and we'll talk about studio and what that means in his world in a minute. But he's in the career counseling space. He's up in Canada. The other day, he took a video and got hundreds and hundreds of likes and comments and God knows how many views. And I'm going with it was the snow. It really wasn't the advice or the information, but it was the snow that happened like, early October. That's not really
crazy.
So Rob is a content creator, a guy that actually gives a crap about helping other people. He's a servant leader through and through, and I've enjoyed engaging with him, and I wanted him to come on our show and share some of his thoughts with you, Ernie, because I think every once in a while there's a few of us that are like, that's it. I'm done smashing my face into this wall. I've got to do something else for my own sanity. So we should maybe look at life from that perspective at least once. So hi, Rob.
Hi, Terry. I think you're right about the snow thing. It's there was some shock factor there, I think, for people. So.
You had what, 4 or 5 inches? It wasn't like it was just a little bit.
Yeah, it was 40 centimeters. So we're I don't know what the conversion is, but I think it's 6 or 8 inches, something like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Wow.
Centimeters? I think isn't an inch 2.5 centimeters? Isn't that what the?
Oh, yeah, you're right. So I didn't do well in math in school.
Yeah. it was holy shit. It was like 14, 16 inches.
Yeah, it was over a foot. You're right.
Okay. When does your snow typically start in Canada? Similar to Minnesota. I'm in Minnesota, so Terry's.
Yeah. No, this was early. Probably a month or 6 weeks early.
Okay, so similar to us. Okay, got it. That's so early, and it's really been cold. I know. It just happened like this. It was overnight for us too, but we haven't had the snow, so I feel for you. Has it all melted already, or
no? It is a little warmer, and the melt has begun, but it's going to take a while.
Oh, interesting. If it happens at all, huh? Interesting.
That's wild. I got on the paddleboard this morning and it was 43 degrees. That's why I'm still wearing the hoodie, because I may not ever warm up again. Yeah.
I appreciate that you're still getting out there. That's fantastic.
Yeah, it's or dumb, one of the two, but I'm excited about it. So, all right, let's talk about you and what you do and how you got into it. That's a good starting point. Tell us the Rob Deptford story.
Well, how I got into what I'm doing now, I tell people I'm kind of an accidental coach. Although I had some exposure to coaching years ago, I was first asked to get involved in it way back in it was 2001, and that was an interesting program that was set up as really a chance to help some young people who were labeled as underprivileged develop some career and life skills. And I had a boss at the time who came and said, "Hey, Rob, have you ever done any coaching or teaching or anything like that?" And I said, "No." And she said, "Well, would you like to try?" And being young and eager, I jumped at the opportunity, and I was lucky to have some mentorship from my manager at the time, and kind of grew from there. And I've been fortunate to have some opportunities throughout my career, among other things, to continue with the coaching bit. And I've just been doing it full time for the last few years. And I really got into it through a job loss of my own.
Mm.
I had been planning to do some formal coach courses, and went through a job loss and continued on with these courses anyway, because I had them planned, and met some people who turned out to be future colleagues. I was asked because we're going through a bit of an economic downturn here in our local market in Calgary, I was asked to come and help with outplacement and career transition coaching. And I've been doing that ever since. It's really interesting work, sort of helping these people that are in reactionary mode and having to move on to the next thing. And whether that's the next job or start a business or contract your services or retire or whatever it is they choose to do, we come up with a bit of a plan to make that happen. And so I'm doing that, but I'm also looking at working with people who are in a more proactive mindset of career management, and really trying to encourage people to be more proactive about it as well. Because let's face it, the world of work is different than it used to be. Job security is not really a thing anymore. And so I'm kind of working down that path with people too.
Job security is not really a thing anymore. Yeah, that's phenomenal. I just posted 10/4 was the day I got ushered out of my last corporate gig. 10/4/2007. I just told that story on LinkedIn, and it's a ton of fun, right? And I see people all the time, well, you should go get a job. Well, why? I can't trust the big company to keep me employed, but sometimes it's the way to go, So interesting. Janet, when was the last time you had a corporate type gig? Although was it
Target Corporation?
Target, okay.
Mm-hmm. And that was back in, I was merchandise coordinator. Then I went over to Macy's. No, wait, it was something else before Macy's. What was it before Macy's?
Dayton's. Well, Dayton's.
Or was it after Dayton's? There was one in between, I think. Anyway, I made the little cards. This is the best because this is my career transition. I made the little cards for people to get in and out the doors. And it was the boringest job. They would just randomly, if their card broke, or they'd show up, Most of the time I sat and sold shit on eBay.
Nice.
That's when I started dabbling online. Yep. So that was 1998. Mm-hmm. And then I was like, forget it. And then I quit. And then I started a daycare in my home. And anyway, that's my long story short. But yeah, that was my last corporate job. I was not cut out for corporate at all. I just wasn't. I didn't like kissing butt. It's just, I had that hard time with, I would joke around with the top CEO. I'm like, I don't care. And my coworkers would hit me and go, can't believe you said that to him. I'm like, I don't care. So anyway, so corporate is, but I do believe it's meant for some people. There's great perks to both. I don't have benefits. You know what I mean? I don't have, so maybe Rob could talk to that, the differences between all that, because I do think it's a struggle at times when you own your own business too, to learn all the different pieces in a business.
Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, and you're right, pros and cons either way. And people, I think, have to understand a little bit about what they're getting themselves into if they want to make that entrepreneurial leap. And I mean, we're all in the same space too. I've been through the same kinds of experiences and the ups and downs and the no benefits thing. And, how am I going to feed my kids?
Sure. Yeah, exactly.
These things go through our minds, right? And the safety net, or the perceived safety net of the corporate world is something that seems to be easy to jump back into for people, or attractive for people to want to jump back into.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you like that structure, if you can handle the politics, and some places are worse than others on that front, right? There are some pretty good places out there to work. And you know, if that's a good fit for you, then by all means. You know, and most people do, as they're going through a transition, want to look for that next gig, that next job.
Mm-hmm.
It's a small percentage that decide to take that entrepreneurial leap for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, pros and cons either way. It's just a matter of knowing, I think, what you're getting yourself into.
That's an interesting piece, right? So when you say small percentage, are you saying 5 or 10 or 30, or what is small in that sentence?
5, maybe less than 5. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's not many. It's not many. And I think, you know, the risks are pretty apparent when you see the statistics that are out there about the failure rate of new businesses. It's a pretty scary thing.
Yep.
And so to take that leap is a big deal for people, especially if you are in a position where you've got a family, right? And you know you've got bills to pay and mouths to feed and things. It's tough.
Well, I think that's partly, and I don't know how they do it in Canada. I can't imagine it's too different. The whole paycheck to paycheck, right? And if you don't have like a 6-month reserve saved up, it's really hard to wrap your head around just how long it takes to make money, right? To start earning, and it's not make money. We're not a mint, right? We have to earn money. We have to do stuff that people want and are happy to pay us for. And hopefully they do that in a timely fashion. Good Lord, some of these larger companies net 90 days. Man, stop it with the you're not going to pay me for 90 days. What does that even mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And these are the things that if you have no idea getting into it, getting started in entrepreneurship, they can be an unpleasant surprise. You know, what do you mean I'm not getting any income for 3 months?
That's the biggest understatement I think I've ever heard. That is an unpleasant surprise right there.
No kidding. Well, and the thing is, the bank isn't going to wait for your mortgage payment. So, you know, you have to have a plan. You have to have a plan in place, and you have to really do some research. You do have to know that you've got a product or a service that people want. And then you got to figure out how are you going to put this thing together and actually launch it, right? And get it out there so people know you exist and are going to be willing to pay for that service or that product.
It usually takes money. What?
Well, yeah, you said the same thing I said. I said that's when you call Janet E. Johnson. You said it usually takes money.
For the Facebook ads to get it out there. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Yeah, it does. I mean, I've always said that it takes money to make money when you own your business. So, you know, if people don't have something to be able to put some money in, it's going to be much more difficult. So, yeah, I could see that then the job career, maybe going and saving some money while you work a job, if you have that. I mean, is that maybe something you recommend to people and coach people on too? I would assume.
Yeah. No, absolutely. You know, and really everybody's situation is different. So if you've got a nest egg socked away that you can draw upon, great. But, you know, a lot of people do have to be doing at least something and call that startup a side hustle. And that's entirely possible, right? The challenge comes in the balancing act between the job and the side hustle. And when is that transition where you actually are in a position to leave the job behind and jump into the side hustle full time? But you know what, for the most part, at least you're drawing some income while you're doing that. And you know, we had one of the best examples I've ever seen of that is we had a fellow who came and developed our basement years ago, and he was just starting out as a contractor. And what he did was he worked stocking shelves in doing the overnight shift. Right. And then he'd show up at my house at 10 o'clock the next morning to come and do construction work in my gosh. And wow. That's how he started. And for him, it was the perfect strategy, actually. I don't know how he kept going. He drank a lot.
You'd have burnout, you would think. Yeah.
Right.
That's crazy. Huh?
But you know what? Contractor work? Do you know? Any idea?
Yeah, he is. Yeah. No, he's got a very successful business in town now.
Nice.
And when he was working with us, he was just about to make that transition, just about to quit that overnight job. So he had positioned himself quite well, and he knew exactly what he was getting himself into. He did everything right going into it.
Okay.
So you know, that was one way to do it. For most people, that's a little bit unrealistic. You've got to have some flexibility in the work you do. and during daytime hours, right, for most people.
Mm-hmm.
And so whether it's a part-time gig or doing contract work, whatever works well for you, that'll allow you to spend some time on your business and in your business as well, and still have a bit of a paycheck to keep yourself afloat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Interesting.
Wow, that's a great way to go about it. And I think about that, right? Because sometimes it's probably better to go stock shelves than to go work in the same line of work at a higher paying role, right? Because the mental capacity, right? The mental shift is if you can turn off a little bit when you're stocking shelves, some really great creative ideas can flow from the back of your brain. If you're exercising those same memory muscles and that same mind muscle for your job that you're doing and for the job that you want to have, it might burn it out a little. Not burn it out, but it might not allow you to be as creative. That makes sense.
No, I absolutely agree. And the other thing too is, and these sort of task-oriented types of jobs are not plentiful like they used to be. So that's a challenge out there for sure. But if you can find one, the structure, the framework around that kind of work is different than in the corporate world, right? Because we know that a corporate job doesn't turn off anymore. That the 9-to-5 thing is not reality because we're so highly connected that, I mean, everybody's answering emails all night long when they're home anyway, right? So it doesn't allow you that opportunity to turn off and to shift gears and to have that creative thought in order to build that business that you're trying to build.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Certain types. Yeah. Like you said, well, it's interesting. You just said though, stocking shelves and that isn't easy to come by. Is like, are you talking, because right now I know here we're building so much that there's way a deficit on carpenter type people, or I don't know if that's kind of, where you go to a job and you leave and you're done. You know what I mean? I don't know if it's that same way in Canada, but here it's just crazy how much there is. Like they need more help. So.
Yeah, and it definitely varies by industry. If you're looking bigger picture and you look at some of the information that's out there now on these types of jobs, there's probably the biggest threat out there for those types of jobs from AI and automation and those kinds of things.
Okay.
And this is not going to happen overnight, but I certainly think it's there and it's coming. For now, depending on the market you're in, there is opportunity, but I don't think it's a long-term prospect for people. But definitely take advantage if it's there. If you can get that gig where the quitting whistle goes at 5:00 and it's yabba dabba doo and away you go. That dividing line is tough to come by these days. So if you can find it, that's terrific.
That's great. So tell us how do you work with these? So tell us exactly, how do you work with people right now?
So, my approach is really, it's rooted in life coaching more so than the kind of the traditional career development type of what you would expect from a career counselor, I guess. I really spend a little more time on exploration and this bigger picture stuff. And what do you want to do? And why is it important to you? And what are the things you value? And what kinds of environments would you thrive in? The stuff that you really have to get a handle on, whether you're going into the next job or starting a business, you need to know these things in order to set yourself up for success. So we really work on clarifying those pieces. Okay. And when you know that, it's much easier to both develop a message, right? What we might call in marketing a unique value proposition if you're looking for the next job, or if you're looking for how you're going to sell your business. It's much easier to develop that when you have that clarity. So then we can move into the strategy, right? Then we can move into, I need to develop the resume and the cover letter, or I need to develop the business plan, or whatever it is, depending on the direction you choose. Maybe it's the retirement plan, right? I don't know.
Okay. Yep. If that's where they're at, yeah.
If that's where they're at, you bet. Mm-hmm. But that's really what it's about, is gaining that understanding of, Now, what can I do? What's important to me? What can I deliver? What's going to resonate with people? And then turning that into something that is tangible and can earn some money for people.
Yeah, and I think that's where it starts, right? What do you have that's of value to offer to the world that the world needs and is willing to pay for, right? If you can answer that question, and you should probably figure out, do you really like it? Because if you don't really like it, stop. Just stop, right?
Yeah. Do you like it? And is it motivating for you? Right. And so what are your motivators? If you're money motivated, maybe you need a sales commission gig, right? Or if you're motivated by, for me, it's the reward of people landing in the next thing, whatever it is. So for me, what I do is perfect, but understanding what motivates you and what's going to get you out of bed in the morning is a big piece of it.
Mm-hmm.
The why. Mm-hmm.
The why. Absolutely. The why.
Mm-hmm.
Why? What is going to make you kick the sheets off the bed, man? That's so you can get up, right? Like I posted something about a Happy Friday thing. I never post Happy Friday things because the Happy Monday is the same thing to me as Happy Friday because I like what I do, right? And if you don't like what you do, Mondays suck, right? Sunday afternoon starts to suck because Monday's coming and Friday is all that matters. When you like what you do, it doesn't matter when you're doing it. As long as it ends in Y, you're going to do it, right? If it's a day that ends in Y. So love it, man. Love it, love it, love it. So those are some good tips and good ideas.
Well, sorry, I was going to say, here's the thing with that living for the weekend, and the dreading the Mondays. A lot of people find it really challenging to get off that hamster wheel. And so I try to encourage people to really think through, are you happy at what you're doing? And if you're not, why do you stay? And a lot of times it's a matter of overcoming that fear of stepping off the hamster wheel because you don't know what's out there. And so to sit back and reflect and consider, okay, should I find a new job? Is there something I can do in my current role that will make things better for me? Would I be happier in entrepreneurship or doing some other thing? To actually take some time to think that through can help you make that first step and make a change that can be just tremendous for you. Because, we only live once, as they say, right? So why not do something that is a good fit for you?
Amen. Amen. All right. Interesting. So I'm old-ish, right? Oldish. I'm 47 years old. I got some buddies that are.
I'm not admitting I'm your same age, so.
Right, yeah. I'm old, not Janity Johnson. She is not old, regardless of when she may have graduated high school. Now, I have buddies of mine that just went through kind of the career search, and he was like, age discrimination, man.
Oh,
and it's
I've heard
maybe
that
not
too.
age discrimination as much as it's salary discrimination, right? Because if I come in with my level of experience, you should probably pay me more than someone that's going to come in at 27 years old, right? I know more. I have more relationships. How real is that? Do you have any thoughts? Is there ways to combat that or show your value and your worth that justifies the cost difference?
Yeah, so it is out there. I hate to say it, but it is out there, and nobody will admit to it. But it does still exist. I don't think it's the problem it used to be. I think there are some employers that have become a little more progressive and recognize the value in having that experience in their organizations. But the trick, I think, for a job search, a candidate who's looking, is to identify those organizations. What are the organizations that will value what they have to offer? And if you can identify those organizations, whether it's through your networking or your own research in some other way, then those are the places to target if there's a good match for your skill set. But if you're just out there applying for things, I think the trick is, being in the right market helps, for one thing, because I know if you're in an economic downturn like we are, all of the decisions are cost driven. So you do run into the problem, like you just mentioned, of, well, okay, here's somebody who's more senior, and therefore they're probably going to demand a higher salary, and we're not hiring people based on the salary thing right now because we don't want to pay. So that is definitely a challenge. But the way to combat that is to, really identify what are the gaps that you can fill in an organization. What are the problems that you can solve for an organization that maybe somebody that's not in your age group couldn't do as well? And one of the big things I find that works for people now, and I'm 43, by the way, so a lot of my peers are running into this too.
Mm-hmm.
And so the thing that we have to offer is mentorship. And when you see companies getting leaner and leaner, and especially if they're making these cost-driven decisions, a lot of the people that get eliminated from the organization are those more senior people. And when they leave, they take with them the institutional knowledge and that opportunity to provide the mentorship to the younger people in the organization. So if you can highlight that you've got this experience that allows you to provide that piece, where, you know, in a lot of these organizations, there just isn't the opportunity for succession planning anymore. That's a huge thing. That's a huge value piece to highlight. So things like that, and anything else you can identify that would be high value for your target employer, those are the things that are going to be the hook, right? That are going to captivate them and make them want to talk to you a little bit more.
Are the days of kind of spray and pray, I hope somebody calls me back and my resume doesn't get lost in their applicant tracking system because I don't have enough keywords in it. Are those gone? Do you help people get targeted, get focused, and really make that super specific approach to a company, or how does that look?
Yeah, so spray and pray, I like that. Spray and pray, the shotgun approach.
Yeah.
And you know, we were taught to do that, right? We were taught years ago, if you learned anything about applying for jobs, it was get the volume out there, apply everywhere, try to apply early, right? And if you get in early, you might have a better chance. And the more applications, the better the odds. I think we know it doesn't work that way anymore. And part of it is the automation, the ATS, right? The applicant tracking software that does the initial filtering for people. And so we have to be strategic about our applications to try to beat those applicant tracking systems. And so part of that is getting the keywords in there and kind of mirroring the job profile or the job posting if we can, and using some of the language out of that posting, because odds are there's going to be some keywords that are programmed into the system that match up there. But part of it is really, you know, I talk about writing your resume like a journalist, and you know, I cut my teeth in journalism years ago. One of the writing style, we refer to it as the inverted pyramid writing style. And the idea is when you read a newspaper article, there's a headline, right, that hopefully is a little bit captivating. And if you read the first paragraph of any news story, you're going to find that you don't have to read the rest. And yeah, and so it's, you know, it's what happened today, and they give you the what happened today, and then the rest is kind of the supporting detail. And that's exactly the functionality that we want to get out of a resume. We want to have the captivating, you know, the headline, the immediate sort of spelling out of how you might be a fit for the role that you're applying to, a reason that that they are going to keep you in the competition, and have that in kind of a quick summary at the top end. I mean, this might be your unique value proposition on the top end, and then the rest is the supporting detail. And the more specific you can make it to the target employer, the better your chances are going to be. That's
interesting. I had to write a resume recently for my husband because he was hired recently and I was told that exact type of thing. So what I did was I took the job description and I took and put all the pieces of the job description over into the resume so that it was very exactly. And now, granted, it's more work. I mean, because you got to think every job you're applying to, you need to do a different resume. Whereas we used to, like Jerry was saying, send out the same resume to every single place. So is that kind of what you're suggesting? Just really detail it to their job description, what they're offering?
Yeah, but here's the thing with that, right? You can send out 1,000 resumes and not get a call. If you've got a generic resume, that's probably likely to happen.
For sure.
But if you're really specifically targeted, you're going to get a much better return on investment for your time. So I'd much rather send out 10 good, high quality, well-targeted resumes than 1,000 generic resumes, because my odds are probably better.
Makes sense. Makes sense. What about all these new creative resumes out there? Like, just they're completely different. They're like graphic design look. I mean, is that it? You know what I mean? Have you seen some of those?
Yeah.
And some like grab their attention so much they get hired. But I would assume that's depending on what you're applying for. I guess if you're applying for a graphic designer, you need to do something like that. But, you know, I don't know. What's your thought there?
Yeah, there's some cool stuff out there now for sure. The challenge I find with some of those things is we have to remember with some of the applicant tracking software, it just strips all of that formatting away anyway.
Oh, so, funny.
Yeah. So, you know, you put all this time and effort into these creative resumes, and then the person on the receiving end doesn't see any of it. And you know, even worse, it might get all garbled up because of the way the system works.
Yep, interesting.
I mean, we have to be careful about stuff like that. You know, I'm with you. If you're applying to a creative marketing agency, for example, and you can come up with something that looks really cool and has some graphic element to it, that would be appreciated in my mind, you know, by that employer. Mm-hmm. So it's understanding how you're applying, who you're applying to, what the expectations might be, and what they would appreciate, and really putting yourself in the employer's shoes and trying to anticipate a little bit.
Cool. Yeah, I think it makes sense. So tell us a little bit more about how people can get a hold of you and what you offer, and learn more about your services and that kind of thing. And do you also have a coaching course too, did you say, or no? Or do you just coach? I didn't know. Catch both if you did both.
Yeah, so right now I just coach. Okay. I do one-to-one coach, but I've got some courses in the works here, so stay tuned.
Okay, cool.
But in the meantime, forgeaheadcoaching.com is the website, and you can phone.
Can you say that again? Let's spell it out so people really know.
Yeah, so it's forgeaheadcoaching.com. So forgeahead.
Okay.
COACHING.
You don't have to spell coaching, but okay. It was the forge part I wasn't positive about. So okay. Well, now everybody knows. Okay. forgeaheadcoaching.com.
Yeah. No, it's .com, Janet. I just.
COM. Yes, that's right. We passed the spelling test.
Well, we had to spell it in Canadian. It changes everything.
Oh, we like to put U's into words and things, right? Colors, COLOUR.
Oh, yes, you're right. You're right. Oh,
very imperial. I like that. That's good.
Yeah.
You bet.
Good.
You bet.
Well, if you can leave somebody in transition right now, they're not sure what they're going to do with their life. They're, you know, maybe they've been on, or maybe they're just unhappy with what they're doing. What's one tip you want to give our audience to take action, something that they could take action on in the next 24, 48 hours?
Well, you know, the biggest thing is taking action. I think for people to sort of take that time you need to shift gears if you need to, for sure. And especially if you've gone through a job loss, you know, that takes time to really shift gears. And if you've got to take a vacation or sit in your hot tub with a beer, or, you know, whatever it takes to get in the headspace of moving forward, then do that. But then move forward, take that first baby step. And that can be anything, right? That can be, okay, today I'm going to get on to a job search site and have a look and see what's out there. Or today I'm going to dust off the resume. Or today I'm going to make some phone calls. Or today I'm going to go to a networking meeting. Just do something, right? Do something. Put something in the calendar and make it happen. Because once you do that first thing, the rest gets easier.
That's really cool. I want to kind of piggyback on it real quick, because a few things are more lonely or frustrating than feeling like you don't have the self-worth you normally do because you don't have a job, right? So looking for a job, it can be a kick your ass, beat down kind of experience. Any tips or thoughts on how to stay up and motivated and you know your value and keep your head up?
I think rely on your support network. Yeah. Right, friends and family, and you know, meet some people. I mean, you know this, Terry, right? Go and and meet some people, and be mindful of who you choose to meet as you go forward, because surrounding yourself with the right people makes all the difference.
Love it.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Cool. All right. So forgeaheadcoaching.com. Do you, obviously I know you from LinkedIn. Do you accept people on Facebook? Do you do Twitter? Are you an Instagram guy? Do they find you anywhere else?
Right now, I'm pretty focused on LinkedIn. The social media thing is boy, it's time consuming. It can be time consuming. So I focus on LinkedIn, and I think it's probably the place to be for this kind of stuff anyway.
Yeah.
It seems to make sense for that kind of audience. So find me on LinkedIn for sure, and I'll connect with you happily. And the Facebook and other stuff, I'm there. I'm just not very active there, but LinkedIn would be the place to find me for sure.
Beautiful, beautiful. And speaking of people finding people, Janet E. Johnson, how do the people find us?
Yeah, you can find all our shows and this show at businessgrowthtime.com/blog. And then you also can find us and join our community. We have a Facebook group, and that is businessgrowthtime.xyz, or just search us inside of Facebook. So thank you so much, Rob. This was really, really, really helpful information.
Okay, thanks for having me. This was a lot of fun.
Thanks.